Super Bowl 50, what is it, 8? Went.
Sure.
Kansas City Chiefs.
Can we stop using Roman numerals? Can we do that, please, NFL? I have to Google it every single time.
Yeah. Now I got a hang of it. Don't change it now that I got a hang of it. But it made me oddly think this is how you know I was bored during this game for the majority of the game, because let's not be mistaken. The game was boring for about 3.5 quarters. The last half of fourth quarter and then overtime were really exciting, and it was super mid, not Super Bowl, the rest of the way. So Kansas City, by the skin of their dick, barely beat the San Francisco 49ers. And I use that term loosely because I don't think they beat the San Francisco 49ers. I think San Francisco choked, but we'll get into that in a little bit. I'll be curious to see your thoughts. There was a halftime show, and the only thing worth mentioning of the halftime show was Alicia Keys. Mm-hmm. I mean, ageless wonder. I have no words, but let's get into the Super Bowl. Dwayne Marcus, give us your overarching thoughts on the game, and then we'll just deep dive. And I have some questions jotted down that I'll sprinkle in.
I mean, there should be a box on Kyle Shanahan's desk by the time he gets back to the building. I can tell you that much. And Jerm was on the show last week when I said this, and Niners fans didn't like this, and I don't really care. When you are the head coach of a football team that's won 64 games since you've been there, that's won 3 division titles, been to 4 NFC Championship games. The only time you didn't make the playoffs was the COVID year. You've been now in 2 Super Bowls. You were the beginning of the dynasty, and now you're like the thing that really makes it a dynasty. You have to go, right? There's a lot of talent on this team on both sides of the ball, right? Whether you love him or you don't, Brock Purdy is a good quarterback. At the very least, he's better than Jimmy G, right? You have the best running back in football, the best tackle in football. You've got 2 really good receivers, a great tight end who's getting old. You've got an excellent defense from top to bottom. Secondary is not that great, but the front 7 is outstanding, right? Steve Wilkes actually looks like he's good at something finally in the NFL. Shout out to the black man. When you are now responsible for yet another blown double-digit lead in the Super Bowl, your third.
Talk about it.
Every Super Bowl you've been in, you've blown a lead. The biggest one ever, 28-3, Super Bowl 51. Now you come back 7 years later and you blow another one. Kyle Shanahan's not the answer. And I know that when you look across the landscape of the league, right, you sit there and you say, who really can you guarantee is going to get more out of this team? It is very, very easy and very, very fair to say that the Niners are where they are simply because of the talent on the football field. When you have a team that is, if I'm not mistaken, consistently top 3, top 5 in almost everything year in, year out, they're going to win a lot of football games, right? Yeah. When this team is healthy, they win football games. There's been 3 times this team hasn't won at least 10 football games in a season. All 3 of those times, there was some type of major injury going on. Now, there's a lot of free agents on this team, specifically defensively, but if they all come back, which I think they can bring a good chunk of them back, at least the ones that deserve to come back, I think they will bring back. This team can still win at least 10, 11 games next year.
Yeah.
In NFC West, that is still pretty weak. The Seahawks don't really have a direction right now. They've got a great head coach hire, but they don't really have a direction. The Cardinals suck, and the Rams are going to be mid because they keep getting older, right? Yeah. So this is still your division to lose. You're still at worst going to be the 3 seed in the NFC next year, which still gives you a home playoff game. They've got probably the best home field advantage in the NFC, one of the best home field advantages in the league. They're going to be better than most teams they step on the football field with. So we're going to be right back here next year talking about the Niners probably in another NFC Championship game. Because despite my belief, not many people believe in the Cowboys. And this Eagles season was not an aberration. They're going to suck again next year. They're not going to be good next year because they brought Nick Sirianni back again. Mm-hmm. So your biggest threats in the NFC is what? The Lions, Dan Campbell. No disrespect. I know we love.
Chill.
Listen, I know we love the Lions on the network, but the Lions aren't there yet. Is all I'm saying.
I know. I'm noticing you're not even saying your Packers, which is kind of shocking me, to be honest with you.
I think we need another year. I really do. Also, by the way, NFL execs were like, "Oh, the Packers are winning the Super Bowl." Let's relax.
Yeah, everybody chill out.
Yeah. But a really good team. By the way, shout out to the Packers. Only team this year to score more than 20 points against the Chiefs. I love that.
The Packers were the only team that I could honestly say went out and beat the Chiefs' ass, beat them, not let the Chiefs creep in. Bert, I watched that game. I can't remember if it was the third quarter, late in the third, or maybe beginning of the fourth, where the 49ers had about 3 or 4 straight possessions where the defense held them to 3 and outs. And it was 3 and out. And it was a 6-point game. I think it was like 10-16. And I said, yo, or 13-16. I'm sorry. So it was a 3-point game, whatever it was. It was a 1-possession game. And I said, yo, the 49ers are playing with fire because it's heading into the fourth, or it's already in the fourth. The Chiefs are right there. This is their bag. So I'm going to ask the question, did the Chiefs go out and win this game, or did the 49ers lose it?
Up until overtime, I would have told you the 49ers lost it. But to watch Patrick Mahomes manage that drive, that to me is the Chiefs winning it 100%. And look, not for nothing. I mean, I was saying this all game, especially in the first half. I thought San Fran's defense was unbelievable.
Yeah,
they were. And look, the numbers aren't going to reflect it, right? You know, the Chiefs' total yardage, their passing yards, their rushing yards. I mean, everything I'm looking at exceeds what San Fran had. The only thing San Fran essentially led in is time of possession. And honestly, that shocks me 100%. I thought clearly, obviously it was their offense. And I remember you were just saying we were texting all throughout the game. Mm-hmm. And my text in the third quarter to you is Brock Purdy's losing this game for San Francisco. And look, I hate to knock him because he is a good quarterback, but to the same point, I don't know if it was a combination of just terrible play calling. I don't know why they decided to, and despite the amount of work he got, underutilized C-Mac when they should have been calling run heavy play calling that was working the whole time. You know, he had 80 on the ground and 80 in the air. He's honestly, he's listed as my good for good, bad, and fugly because he deserves better. He played his absolute ass off, and he should have a ring on his finger right now as a result, but he doesn't. Right. So I honestly think if it ended in regulation, it was San Fran losing. However, watching Mahomes, as frustrating as it was for individuals like us who just wanted to see San Francisco win a game, that to me was winning it. And to bring it down to 3 seconds and go, I mean, not for nothing, it was exciting as a football fan. But I mean, to be on that end of it, it certainly did stink a little bit too.
Dwayne Marcus, so, man, is it possible that Kyle Shanahan just isn't a good coach? It's hard to say that with a guy who's been to the Super Bowl twice in the last few years, 10+ win seasons. He's done it with, however you want to grade Brock Purdy now, not A1 quarterback play for the most part, right? I think large part of the season, Brock Purdy has been a lot of but. You know, he has this, he has that. He did it with Jimmy G. So you're not giving Kyle Shanahan a pass, even though he hasn't had a top tier quarterback, or you're just like, nah, Kyle Shanahan, or maybe it's just matchups, right? Maybe Andy Reid just kind of has, I'm looking at your face. This is his face.
Bro, Kyle Shanahan, for the third time in a Super Bowl, with several opportunities to put the game away, made the wrong decision every single time.
Yeah. Are you counting that overtime? Because a lot of people were criticizing him receiving the ball at overtime.
First of all, let's go back to the beginning. When you have, Christian McCaffrey fumbled. Yes. Yeah, Christian McCaffrey at the time was averaging like less than 4 yards a carry. But it's still Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Like the fact that there was a point in time in this football game where we would have been in a situation where if the Niners won the game, Jawan Jennings would have been Super Bowl MVP is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now, whoever bet on Jawan Jennings, if that hits, makes a lot of money, right? Then you get to the point of the game, right? We're like, oh, the Chiefs win. Harrison, like the Niners defense was playing so well that if the Chiefs won this game in regulation, Harrison Butker would have been Super Bowl MVP. No, they wouldn't have given it to him. They would have given it to Patrick Mahomes because you're not going to use Harrison Butker. But we're being honest, Harrison Butker at one point was responsible for 9 of their 10 points. Like he would have been. So Kyle Shanahan in Super Bowl 51, they were up 28-3.
Yeah.
They had an opportunity to go out there and what it was like, kick a field goal, whatever it was, to go up 28 points. He decided not to do it, and then the rest was history.
At
the game 4 years ago in 2020 in Miami, similar situation. numerous opportunities to put the game away. He didn't do it. Kyle Shanahan is one of the most non-aggressive, aggressive coaches I've ever seen in my life. Like, he's so aggressive at all the wrong times.
Yeah.
Like, he's so aggressive on first and second down when it doesn't matter, and then not aggressive on third and fourth downs.
He went for it on 4th and 4 in overtime, which was nuts. Like, I you know, and it's funny because he'll get criticized for that, and I think justly so, right? But then you got to remember, the 49ers are a muffed punt away from actually winning the Super Bowl, because if they would have caught that, they could have ran that clock. They had the lead. That turned the tide. When I saw that happen, I said, "Oh, this game's over."
Yeah,
that was the turning point.
The muff punt is definitely massive momentum shift, because everyone in the building knows you don't touch that ball. You let the Chiefs down the ball. But you also have to look at it again from the standpoint of down the stretch of that football game, right? And even overtime alone. Yeah, I'm watching the game. I'm like, they've had the ball for the first half of overtime.
Yeah.
And I didn't even think about this until the end of the game when it was mentioned. Let's say the clock runs out on the Chiefs, they would have kept going. That wouldn't have been the end of the game. There would have been another overtime period.
Yeah.
Like, you would have been bailed out. So when you talk about not taking the ball first, that's huge, because the overtime rules now, both teams get a possession. Yeah. And with as good as this defense was, like, the defense was tired. But you have to think about it from this perspective. You just watched this defense get dog walked down the field at the end of the game to go in overtime. Yeah. They probably would have been dog walked again. Yeah. But let's say they get that one stop. By taking the ball first, you know what you did? You gave Pat Mahomes 4 downs. Every single set. He had 4 downs.
And he made them shits too. He made every single one of them. Every single one of them they had, he made.
The big thing with Pat Mahomes, it's always been, you have to keep Pat Mahomes off the field. And what Patrick Mahomes has consistently done is he's proven that it doesn't matter how much time he's on the field, he can score. Like, I think Patrick Mahomes is a quarterback, and I could be lying. I could be wrong here. But I don't think there's any quarterback ever that's won more games when their team didn't win time of possession than anyone else ever. Yeah. So the one thing you have to your advantage is don't give Patrick Mahomes 4 downs to work with by taking the ball first. Don't do that.
See, that's where Bert was talking about the strategy of time and possession. The 49ers played the Chiefs the way you're supposed to. Run the ball. They went away from it midway through the game. I said, why is Brock Purdy, who I thought Brock Purdy, I think Brock Purdy played a really good game. I really did. There were times, especially when they went away from the run and the screen passing, where I was like, why is he holding on to the ball so
exactly?
Long? Throw that shit. I don't care if
some of those throws look wonky too. Like, it looked like it looked like Brock Purdy never officially shook the nerves out about what he was playing in. And
100%.
And we saw we saw that initially. We saw that against I mean, not for nothing, I hate to say it, Dwayne Marcus, but we saw it against the Packers game too with Brock Purdy. He knew, and look, it was raining that day. I get it, but like, he did not look like the Brock Purdy we know, plain and simple. So, I mean, did he play a good game? Yes, but there were some missed opportunities there, as there always are.
So you say that. I want to ask you, how much blame should Brock Purdy get then?
I mean, I'd say it's a combination. Look, I can't put the whole game on Brock Purdy. Absolutely not. There's so many things. I think it goes hand in hand with play calling. I think it goes 100% up to coaching. So I'll give Brock Purdy 20% of the blame, because he did make some excellent throws out there, and not for nothing. I mean, if you look at his numbers, they are good. But jumping back to overtime, I'm one of the ones that will say I think the right call was to go for it first. Yeah. And I understand you're giving Patrick Mahomes 4 downs, but like, for me, it was confidence in your defense that you were going to get it done. Obviously, it didn't happen. But the way the Niners played, at least the second half of the third and into the fourth quarter, I don't know if they had taken the ball second, if they would have even scratched the surface, even with 4 downs. And I understand, look, we can sit here and argue till we're blue in the face, but had it been done all over again, I still think that they should have had it second. They were not controlling Patrick Mahomes and his legs on 3 separate 4th downs away from winning the Super Bowl. They were so close, and on every single time, it's like you knew he was going to hold it and run, and it's what they do.
Dwayne Marcus, same question. I see a lot of Brock Purdy like blame, but I mean, in the fourth quarter, my notes, I was writing down notes. He had 2 basically back-to-back scoring drives, right? They were down 13-10 after, and then he went and scored. They were 16-13, and then they were tied 16-16, and then they went down 19-16, and then he got him in position to tie again, where Moody was basically the MVP for the Niners, keeping them alive in that game, and then that was at 22-19, and they went up. So I don't, how much blame are you giving Brock Purdy for this Super Bowl loss?
I don't think Brock Purdy gets any of the blame because this is still a second-year quarterback. Like, he's not at the – he doesn't – so I'm not going to – Brock Purdy all season long was asked to do what? He's asked to do what the other quarterback of San Fran was asked to do. Make the throws when it matters, not turn the football over.
Right.
Brock Purdy did that. Were there some throws that he should have hit? Yeah, there were 2 throws to Deebo Samuel. But when you look at the all-22, when you look at the replays – those on both of those throws that he oversailed, he didn't just overthrow those balls. He was being pressured. Like, those weren't like, that wasn't like the Jimmy G pass to Emmanuel Sanders where he's got clean pocket and he just airmails it. Like, Chris Jones didn't get a sack, but Chris Jones down the stretch of that game was on Brock Purdy's neck and in his lap and in his face almost every other play. And at some point, when you are Brock Purdy, or at some point when you're Kyle Shanahan, you have to recognize who you have on the football field. You do not have Tom Brady at your disposal. You don't have Pat Mahomes at your disposal. You don't have some of these other super elite. I don't want to say this because it's going to be taken out of context because that's what they did to Cam. But like, you don't have one of those game-changing quarterbacks quite yet. He's not there yet.
Yeah,
he's still very much a upper tier. Like, he's an elite game manager at this point. And there's nothing wrong with being an elite game manager. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that because that's what fits the mold in San Fran. Is I just need a game manager that's not going to throw the ball away and that's going to make throws when it matters, right? I think when you are Brock Purdy, to play the game that you played on the biggest stage, right? To, like you said, Jerm, Brock did everything he could.
Yeah.
Brock put this team in a position to be successful down the stretch with 3 consecutive field goal drives or whatever it was, right? The blame goes to Kyle Shanahan. You can't be up 10 and take your foot off the gas, right? You don't, especially considering you made that mistake in 2016 against the Patriots. You made that mistake against this very same team 4 years ago, and you're making the same. It's like when you've done the same thing. It's like when you do the same thing 3 times in a row. Like, you're an idiot.
Yeah,
you're really an idiot. And they all do it. When I say they, I mean all of them from that group. Kyle does it. Sean McVay does it. Matt LaFleur does it. Mike does it. All that crew that we love to dub as off, they all do it. They all take their foot off the gas. They're like they don't know how to coach football anymore when they're up by 10 points, and it's annoying. But I think, if anything, I'm not saying Brock Purdy gets a pass because there are definitely instances where I think Brock Purdy could have, in his own way, taken the game over like we saw him do against the Lions in the NFC Championship game. I think the problem, though, is the narrative about Brock Purdy all season was he doesn't play well from behind. And then he gets to the postseason and he played exceptional from behind and forgot how to play well, or the team forgot how to play well when they were ahead. And I think that's really what the issue was. I think the Niners defense was too good. The offense didn't have to do that much. And so when it was time for the offense to do stuff and really put the game away, they didn't know what to do.
You heard it here first. The moment got too big for the San Francisco 49ers, according to Dwayne Marcus.
And this is going to make you happy, Jerm. But because it's going to be well, maybe not. I just, we talk a lot about the Cowboys not having been to a Super Bowl in 30 years.
Yeah.
The Niners haven't won a Super Bowl in 30 years.
Yeah.
You don't get credit for going to, what has it been now, 4 Super Bowls in the last 30 years and not winning. Look, no.
Listen, Jerm's a Bills fan. He knows that.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, again, going back to the Kyle Shanahan point, you are the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers. We're talking about one of the storied franchises in NFL history. One of literally a handful of teams to have won more than 4 Super Bowls. A handful of teams to have been to, what have they been to, 8 or 9 at this point, however many, there's not many, they've been to 10% of the Super Bowls and they haven't won one in 30 years. So when I say that Kyle Shanahan should be fired, I'm not saying Kyle Shanahan should be fired because he's not good at his job. saying Kyle Shanahan could be fired because we're talking about the San Francisco 49ers. And also, if we want to use the Cowboys analogy, if Kyle Shanahan takes Jerry Jones to 2 Super Bowls, 4 NFC Championship games, and he loses both of them, Kyle Shanahan will be gone.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I will give Jerry some credit there. Like, Jerry Jones would recognize at this point, like, Kyle Shanahan's not it. Now, Jerry also holds on to coaches who he shouldn't be holding on to. Kyle Shanahan has to go. I think it is worth going down. Now, they're not going to go on the Bill Belichick route. And I know Jerm last week said on my show that Mike Vrabel's too big, fat, and white to be the San Francisco.
I said big, scary, and white. I said big, scary, and white.
Big, scary, and white. But I think it's worth kicking the bucket on Mike Vrabel, give him 3 to 5 years with this roster and see what he do. Because I think Mike Vrabel could win a Super Bowl with his roster. 100%.
I do too. 100%.
I like this move.
So, all right, let's get to the shits, man. Fuck Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Fuck Travis Kelce.
You at some level, you do have to respect what they just did. You do.
I don't, and here's why. So,
it has anything to do with the fact that they're going to keep sending the Bills home. That doesn't have anything to do with it.
No. I'm not biased. I have no bias. Listen, the Bills. I already said it. The Bills are not. It's not the Chiefs that are getting in the Bills' way. It's the Sean McDermott that's getting in the Bills' way.
He needs a box on his desk too.
Yeah, he sure does. Josh Allen has outplayed Patrick Mahomes in every game they've played except the first one. Ever since then, Josh Allen has done enough. He's left the field with the lead, and he has done enough. He's done his part. Everything, when it comes to the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, consistently great when it matters. Travis Kelce, consistently great when it matters, right? And I'm saying that as the number one option. Andy Reid as the head coach, consistently great when it matters. When it comes to the Bills, Josh Allen, consistently great when it matters. Not Sean McDermott, not Stephon Diggs, whoever else you want to add to that mix for the Bills. So I'm waiting for Sean McDermott to get fired. They're going to waste another year with that bald buffoon again. So yeah, whatever. But when it comes to Kelce, Mahomes, and Travis Kelce, Bert, which one of them now with this Super Bowl ring is closer to the mountaintop as the GOAT in their respective positions? If you had to pick one between Mahomes, Kelce, and Reid, who's the closest to being the GOAT right now?
Oh, so Andy Reid, Kelce, and Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I'd probably have to say Patrick Mahomes. I do. Yeah. And look, and I think only because I think saying Kelce would be an easy way out, right? I mean, there as many great tight ends as there are, you can pick obviously the great ones in history between like Gronk and Tony Gonzalez and so on. But like for me, for Mahomes to do this in such a short span at such a young age, I think is worthy of being on top, plain and simple. And we're now going to continue to get the argument between Brady and Mahomes and Brady and Mahomes. And look, as far as I'm concerned, you need the hardware to even stack up against Brady, and he's on his way doing it. But if you want to take a sample size of this many years in the NFL and this many championships and this many Super Bowls, they would rival almost 1-to-1. So, with that being said, I think I'm sticking with Mahomes 100%.
Dwayne Marcus.
The one that's closest to them. Well, I mean,
who would you call the GOAT if you had to pick one of them? Said one of them is the GOAT. Which one is it going to be?
Well, I think the one that's closest to the mountaintop is the one that got to the mountaintop last night with a win. Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce is the greatest tight end of all time now. Yeah. I understand the argument for Gronk that like tight end, Travis Kelce doesn't block. I got that. But when you look at Travis Kelce's resume, you look at Gronk's resume, Travis Kelce has more catches. He has more yards. I believe he has more all-pro. He doesn't have more Pro Bowls. Gronk has 5. No, he does have more Pro Bowls, actually, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He has more everything except for Super Bowls. Gronk has 4. Travis Kelce has 3. Travis Kelce has the most catches ever in the postseason.
Yeah.
Not of tight ends.
Ever.
Of pass catchers ever. That includes Jerry Rice, who's the greatest receiver of all time.
Right.
He also just passed Gronk this offseason or this postseason with the most touchdown catches ever. or like their duo, Mahomes and like Travis Kelce's the greatest tight end of all time at this point. I think for Andy Reid, I think it's a little bit too late for Andy Reid to be the greatest coach of all time just because of his age. He's up there. Because I think universally the bar is Belichick. And he is, as I talked about last week, he's like 3 full regular season wins away from catching Belichick as far as wins. And he's like 2 postseasons of total of wins away from catching Belichick as far as wins is concerned in the postseason. Yes, he has 3 wings now. He has 3 rings now, yeah, but Belichick has 7. Like he's going to need more wins at least to get to that point. And also, and this is no fault of his own, although, and Jerm and I talked about this last week, we love the fact that, you know, he took, you know, Mike Vick from prison and turned him into an all-pro. That's great. That's fantastic. But like 7 rings as a coach is a difficult thing. I think for Patrick Mahomes is going to end up the GOAT, but it's not. Patrick Mahomes' GOAT status isn't dependent upon him winning 7 rings. I think Pat Mahomes' GOAT status is dependent upon them winning a championship next season. Because if Pat Mahomes,
you think he's not at GOAT status right now?
No, he is. But I'm saying, like, Patrick Mahomes doesn't need to match Brady to be the GOAT. Pat Mahomes, if the Chiefs three-peat next year, Patrick Mahomes' GOAT case becomes super easy. Because the one thing that a lot of people are going to hold against Pat Mahomes is, oh, well, you didn't beat Brady in the Super Bowl. Yeah, well, if they three-peat, nobody's ever three-peated ever. So we're talking about a guy in Patrick Mahomes who still before the time he's 30 would have 4 championships, likely 4 Super Bowl MVPs. He'd have the only three-peat in NFL history because it's probably never going to be done before. It's probably never going to be done again. He'll have a bunch of yards. He'll have all his player of the years. He'll have a bunch of all this other stuff. He's going to finish his career super close to, if not passing Brady all time in passing yards. He'll have a buttload of touchdowns. Like he doesn't need, because of the talent he possesses on the football field, he does not need to catch Brady in Super Bowls because his talent already supersedes Brady. Like Pat Mahomes is the perfect unity of the cerebralness and the mentality that Brady has with the talent that Aaron Rodgers had before he decided to go on darkness retreats and all this other stuff and choke home playoff.
That man's been lost a while. Dwayne Marcus, yeah.
Choke home playoff games to Eli Manning after a 15-1 season and all this other nonsense.
All right. We've crossed the line now.
Relax.
No disrespect, but you should have won that football game. All I'm saying.
Hey, listen.
Hey, shout out to the Jets, though. Shout out to Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Rodgers got the Jets to ditch those god awful uniforms. They're going to their sack exchange, jerseys full time. They're going to have green and black versions of the white ones they wore this year. So it's a much needed upgrade because their uniforms were awful.
In all seriousness, I think when you're talking about closest to the mountaintop, one of those 3 guys actually, in my opinion, reached the mountaintop at their position. It's Travis Kelce. So for me, Travis Kelce the closest to the mountaintop because he's the greatest tight end of all time. I don't think there's really any. I don't think there's any really argument at this point now.
The only statistical advantage that Gronk has over Travis Kelce is yards per reception, and it's really like a difference of 2 or 3 yards. So I would tend to agree. But Andy Reid is the greatest coach of all time. And because I'm using your argument that Mahomes doesn't need 7 rings to pass Brady, Andy Reid doesn't need to get 7 rings to pass Belichick. We've seen what Belichick is without Tom Brady. We saw what Andy Reid did with Michael Vick straight out of prison. We saw what Andy Reid did with Alex Smith. We've seen what Andy Reid did with chubby-ass, Campbell-eating soup, fat-ass Donovan McNabb. We saw what Andy Reid did with Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore as his best receivers last year. Who didn't do shit this year. And the person that they put the game's hands into was McCole Hardman, a castaway from the New York Jets that they acquired halfway through the season. Only Andy Reid
walked out the front door last year.
Only Andy Reid. Andy Reid has done it in every way manageable. By every metric, the Kansas City Chiefs season really wasn't that good. They just had a magical playoff run.
Well, they had Andy Reid defense. Shout out Steve Spagnuolo.
But shout out to him. Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, out of character, a raging red ginger drunken leprechaun on steroids, pushed him on the sidelines
Well, Jerm, if you're super hot by white standards, girlfriend was up in the stands with all her friends in the biggest game of your career, and you had one catch for 1 yard through 30 minutes of football, you'd be pretty pissed too.
Not pissed enough to push your head coach.
Oh, you'd be
that
pissed.
To me was insane. It was absolutely insane.
Bert, you strike me as a
woman beater. No.
Bert's a ladies' man. Yeah. I'm sure back in
100%. 100%.
Bert at some before
not going to deny it,
before he became the settled down, wise man he is today. He had a couple girls at his games, and where's it? The mean streets, Bert would have been pretty pissed if he wasn't getting the ball. If he wasn't getting the ball, he'd be pretty pissed. Now,
hey, Dwayne Marcus, let me tell you, there's a reason why I call him Backshot Bert. Okay. There's a reason. I've known Bert a lot of years. Backshot Bert's a real thing. Let me tell you.
God, I'm not letting my wife listen to this episode. I get your point. What's so crazy is this was so out of character for Kelsey. It happened, and look, I get being heated. To me, this was the perfect storm, and I looked over at Carl, who was at the same Super Bowl party, and I was like, this is typical. This is right during the middle of the Chiefs meltdown in the first half. Nothing going their way. They're not getting the calls that they wanted to. Patrick Mahomes looked flat. He was getting sacked. And then it was right after the Pacheco fumble. And then here comes, Kelsey literally getting in his coach's face. And listen, it's one thing if I saw Travis Kelsey get into the face of a Dan Campbell, a Mike Vrabel, that's fine. Andy Reid looks like a jolly, honestly, he looks like when he's done with the NFL, he's going to start playing Santa Claus at a local mall near you. Yeah. He's not a threatening guy by any means. Travis Kelsey, I'm not going to blame him or not, but big deal, with his beard, that was scary in his. Yeah. That was just me. It was just completely disrespectful. And I understand you're passionate and you want to get in there. I don't know if that was the correct way to do it. And I know a lot of people are going to listen to this, be like, it's football. It's tough. I don't know. That to me just wasn't for me. And if it was anybody else, I have a feeling they wouldn't be playing the rest of the time. But
I think it's because it's Andy Reid, and we all universally recognize that Andy Reid wouldn't hurt a fly. I think that's
right.
Yeah.
It's like he pushed your granddad, right? Like you look at him and you're like, yo, Travis Kelsey, you son of a bitch. Yeah. Now I did right. This was a legacy game for Travis Kelsey, not only because he needs to pass Gronk, but you're right. Taylor Swift was in the stands, and we know her history. Travesty was the album title if he would have lost, and he knew it. Yeah. He knew it, and he said, nah, I'm not going to be the next.
I will not be a song.
No, I won't be a song, and I won't be an album. So Mike, shout out to Mike. Mike Powers, owner of the network, The Divide Live, Fox Sports The Gambler, every weekend on Fridays. Scumbag move, second time he hit his coach. So, yeah, I get it. You have these type A personalities in football. You have Travis Kelsey, who's the best at his position currently, and it's a Super Bowl. I get that tensions are high. You have to practice better self-control in that moment, right? You can't run up on your coach and push him because you're upset that you have one catch for 1 yard. How about this, Travis Kelsey? You know what, Travis Kelsey? Play better. How about that? Play better.
Wasn't getting the ball.
Hey, get open. You know why? Because your knees are like concrete now because you're old as
because
fuck.
Matt Nagy's taking a page out of Brian Johnson's book and calling tight end screens. Listen, we've seen Pat Mahomes get in the face of several coaches on this coaching staff over the course of the years out of frustration. This isn't the first time. And I get it. Travis Kelsey's not Pat Mahomes. I understand that. Pat Mahomes is the golden boy. Gotcha. It happens, bro. I don't think this is a black-white thing like people make it. I think this is just Andy Reid is like America's coach at this point. He's America's granddad, and he's a gentle soul. He wouldn't hurt a fly. And Andy, I don't even think Andy knew what was going on. Like when you look at the clip,
he had no idea he was.
He didn't even realize what was happening until he actually turned and saw that Trav in his face. I mean, it's okay.
So Bill Belichick's record without Tom Brady is 82-98. Andy Reid's record without Patrick Mahomes is 182-120. Andy Reid is the greatest coach of all time. He's succeeded heavily with two separate teams. And Belichick, who doesn't even have a job right now. If Andy Reid, for whatever reason, let's just play a pretend game. If Andy Reid got fired today, he would have a job tomorrow. Belichick doesn't have a job. So that should speak volumes to how people feel about Andy Reid.